What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is Hawk Talk on Melrose, episode 2 of the week. If you haven't listened to our first one, we just dove into the Iowa State game, kind of gave our thoughts, our reaction to that game. Wasn't a pretty game, but we got the dub. We left Ames with the trophy. We're 2-0 heading into Western Michigan, the last non-conference game of the year. Year's going by fast. What's going on, Tyler? How you doing, man?
Doing good, Colin. Yeah, man, that's what I was just gonna say. We this whole offseason, we're like, can we just get to football? Can we get to football? And now we're in week 3 already. Like,
Yeah.
it's just crazy to me. Like 3 weeks of football are gonna soon to be done. And it seems like it's just flying by. And I love it, but I also am like, God, it just makes me realize like how fast this season is gonna ultimately go.
Yeah. And technically, so we're week 3, but technically it's week 4 if you count the week 0, which I don't
That's
know if you
true.
can count that or not. But yeah, I
Well,
mean, I don't really
yeah.
count that, but it technically did happen. So we are kind of in
Yep.
the week 4 of college football already. So,
Weather's getting a little bit nicer, and which I think me and you are not complaining about, especially for this weekend. So
yep, exactly. Not as hot, which is awesome. But
yeah,
yeah, we'll get into the Western Michigan Iowa game coming up here very shortly. Before we get into that though, yesterday some news came out with Noah Shannon being out for the entire year. I think it was maybe,
yeah,
what was it, 3 or 4 weeks ago. It was a full year suspension, and then they appealed it. And I thought for sure with the appeal process that he would you know get maybe 6 games, and I thought like he would for sure maybe see some action towards the back end of the year. The repeal was upheld yesterday, and for me it just sucks. I think it's what he did obviously is not right. It's a rule. I get that. But at the same time, it shouldn't be an entire year. Like the guy's a senior.
yeah.
He's never going to be able to step foot on the football field again, playing a game. Now he can be still with the team, but never be able to play a game. And I just don't get it, especially when you see other schools have major problems, right? Like you had the Alabama basketball player, right, last year, who literally supplied a gun to someone that killed someone and nothing, was able to play in the NCAA tournament as if nothing happened. Then you had the Georgia, that player in the one, I think it was a coaching staff who
Yeah.
went drag weight racing or something, killed someone, or what, I don't know what the entire thing
Yep.
was. Nothing happened. So you have all those things, but then someone who gambles a little bit, which yes, is not right. And I agree. I mean, if it was a 6 game suspension, I would have agreed with that. You got to pay for what you do, but something that you're going to get an entire year, I don't get it. I really don't.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is just the inconsistency from the NCAA on some of these rulings. It's to me, it's different. It's different for each person, which I understand. Everything's a case by case basis, and I understand that. But you just mentioned a couple of examples of a lot more serious issues than what Noah Shannon did, betting on
Yeah.
a women's basketball game, an Iowa women's basketball game. It's like, come on, like, and yeah, what's the point of even appealing if he gets if there's just nope, nothing, rulings upheld, you gambled. To me, they're just trying to make an example out of Iowa and Iowa State, and I get it. If you bet on your own team and your own sport, that's different. Then you're ruining kind of the integrity of the game, and you have to question whether or not you even like, yeah, I don't know. You have a lot of questions surrounding your integrity. So I get that, but when you're doing something that he did, man, I agree with you. It's not as big of a deal as they're making it out to be, and yeah, I mean, I don't get it either. I have no idea. So
I just think if it was like 6 games, that still would have sucked, but it's like they would have been better than, it's like, come on, the entire
I
year.
don't know if I don't know if you said this or I saw it on Twitter, maybe both, but it sounds like if yeah, like stuff that happened, those examples you brought up were like in the SEC. It's like nothing happens.
No.
SEC, and then you goes to the SEC bias thing. People don't like to
It
say that or hear it, but I mean that's true.
if this happened at Alabama, it would have got
Yeah,
put under the rug, or maybe it would have
Alabama,
been a few game suspension or
Georgia,
whatever.
like you just mentioned, and the top schools, Michigan gets kind of swept under the rug with Jim Harbaugh's recruiting violations. I understand, not that big of a deal, but I mean, what are we talking about here? Like, it's the top tier programs that kind of get the special treatment, and everyone else gets
Just gets fucked by it.
gets yeah, has to be made to be like the bad guy. So I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah. Speaking of this whole gambling situation, though, with Iowa, when this all came out back in May, it kind of went throughout the summer with the rumors, and all I'm going to say is it could have been a lot worse than it was. Essentially, it was Noah Shannon and then Jamari Harris, which he's back this week. So apparently what he bet was not much, and it obviously wasn't with Iowa.
He clearly didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's back already. So it could have been a lot worse. I mean, it sucks not having Noah Shannon. He's a really good football player. He kind of clogs up the middle of the defense, and he's just really good. And the experience factor, like, if he was out, let's just say 6 games, I mean, we would be getting him back for the Wisconsin game, for, some of those games at the end of the year, Illinois, Nebraska, hopefully the Big Ten championship game. I mean, we could have used him, right? And the one good thing, though, is our defensive line is obviously very deep. And then, yeah, other than him, it was Jamari Harris. And honestly, it was kind of looking back on it now, because we didn't get burned by having a backup in there. But looking back on it now, it's probably kind of a good thing that did happen, because it gave Deshaun Lee a couple games where we now feel a little confident that if we need to bring him in there for anything, I'm feeling a lot more confident than I did 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago.
Right. Yeah, and I 100% agree with you there. I'm thank God Jamari Harris didn't bet something with Iowa and be gone for the whole year, because then I'd obviously be worried. Then you lose depth at that position where you don't have a ton of depth at. So obviously we can maybe afford that on the D line, like you said, with Noah Shannon. Still sucks. You lose a starter. I mean, and you hate to lose a starter. I mean, it's negatively going to impact you. It just is. He was a good, like you said, a good piece that kind of controlled the middle of that defensive line. And but yeah, glad to have Jamari back, and I'm glad he's coming back against Western Michigan, kind of a little tune-up game before he gets tested, obviously, in Happy Valley. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, I didn't really even think about that, but that is a true thing, because even though we know what we have in Jamari Harris, I mean, he hasn't played a legit football game since 2021, since the bowl game, Kentucky, the first time around playing Kentucky, not last year. So definitely, like, it wouldn't surprise me if, there's a few plays on Saturday where, maybe he gets caught up a little bit, and it's like, oh, he hasn't played for a long time in a real game setting. So, but as the year goes on, man, like, I'm loving our 2 corners, Jamari Harris and Cooper. I mean, those are 2 very athletic and lockdown corners. Like this week, for example, or last week, I should say, like Iowa State, their game plan was, let's attack Deshaun Lee. If we had Jamari Harris, like, what would their game plan been? Because there's really nothing you can really attack. I mean,
probably still attack Jamari Harris because you don't want to throw to Cooper's side, but that doesn't mean that that's necessarily a good plan, right?
Yeah,
that's just
exactly.
They're attacking the non-All-American corner. So,
and then one other thing from yesterday, obviously that, Kirk's talked about that. And then let's get into Cade real quick. Not about what, the funny thing about Cade, which was hilarious about the whole, that was so funny. If you don't know
what we're talking about, just go to Twitter. Twitter's all over it. So.
Barstool tweeted it, and I thought it was hilarious. It had like over 1 million views. But the one thing that did happen yesterday with Cade is he kind of just came out in his press conference, which I find it funny that, I don't know if you knew this or not, but all the players, their press conference, or they all meet with the media around like 11 o'clock on Tuesdays, but apparently Cade has like a class or something around that time. So he's the one and only. He gets to go in like at like 1:30 and actually go up to the podium and like go where like Kirk talks to. So like he's like the one player that does that. So you always have to wait till what Cade. Yeah. So you have to wait a couple hours after the media session with the players to get like with Cade, because he has like a class or whatever. Right. But he just said something about his quad's feeling really good. It's the healthiest he's been in months. He's fully back. He's doing everything in practice again for the first time since the injury. So hearing those words, that is very, very promising, very good. I think it's better than what we heard maybe last week, where it almost kind of made it sound like this thing's going to just linger the entire year. It's now sounding like, well, he's kind of back. Like he's fully back. Now there's probably still some limitations. It's probably still sore. It's not like it's 100% healthy, but just seeing that he's like fully back in practice, like he's fully like a full participant is huge, because we were talking about this on the last episode or even last week's episodes where the rust is definitely a thing. Like you can definitely see it being a thing, and you just need those practice reps with the receivers, and you just need to get that. And so when he's fully participating, it's huge.
I was kind of shocked by what he said a little bit, just because I think us fans, we saw that, he wasn't quarterback sneaking it. He wasn't doing any bootlegs. He was limited in those first couple games. I mean, we didn't roll him out there, and maybe that was more precautionary than him actually being hurt. I don't know. But I was watching another podcast, and I think Iowa State fans were a little upset, or at least appeared to be, that they didn't like pressure Cade in that game as much as maybe they thought they would have. And really, Cade like came out of that game. Yeah, obviously. Well, he's saying he's the healthiest he's been now. Obviously, he came out very healthy.
Well, I wonder, real quick, I wonder if, like, after that game, like, he felt a lot better than he did, like, after the first game. And maybe it's just to the point now, it's like, wow, I just played an entire game, got hit a lot, and, like, I'm not feeling any worse. So maybe that's where we're now at, because I feel like that first game, you could definitely tell by the end of that game, and I'm sure by Sunday, he was feeling worse than when he started on Saturday. I wonder if this last game, it didn't affect him really at all.
Right.
So
kind of get those few days or that day after, maybe he wasn't feeling it as much. You're exactly right. Yeah, I don't know. I'm obviously, what that is obviously the most important thing is Cade's health, right? I mean, him being available and healthy is going to be key to everything that we want to achieve this year. So very, very, very good to hear that, for sure.
Yeah, because like in those first 2 weeks, like you could definitely tell, like there's things that, like, if the pocket starts collapsing a little bit, like he's still really good. He's much better than Petrus is, but you could still tell he's a little hesitant on some things. Yeah. And it's just, hopefully as the weeks go on, some of that stuff kind of gets relieved a little bit with his injury, hopefully improving. So,
well, and we talked about Russ, but we also talked about his health being maybe a factor, the quad being a factor on why we're not connecting on some of the stuff that, he was hoping to connect on. So the healthier he gets, obviously that means the more reps he's playing in the game, which ultimately hopefully leads to better success on offense.
Last week I was saying, if we get past Iowa State, we beat them, do we sit out Cade? The more I think about it, I don't think that's a good idea. Even, let's get him 100% for Penn State, but it's like, no, we definitely need a game, a tune-up game, because once again, we see where there's potential on this offense, but we just haven't clicked. We need a game where like all of it comes together. And obviously that doesn't happen if you sit him out a game to get him 100% healthy for Penn State. So I take all that back. That was obviously after watching the Iowa State game and still seeing that rust and still seeing those like those timing issues. And it's like, oh, we're right there. So, but yeah, let's get into the game actually now. Let's talk a little Western Michigan, who is obviously not a very good football team. They are 1-1 for the year. So, hey, they got a win, but it was against a team I've never heard of, St. Francis. I
was going to say,
I don't know.
Sounds like a Division III school to me. I don't know.
So they beat them 35-17. So they let a team, St. Francis, score 17 points, which isn't a lot, but it's still like, for a school that I've never heard of, that's kind of a lot. So if we can't get above 7, if getting to 17 points is a struggle for us, then damn, we have a lot of problems. And then the following week they played Syracuse at Syracuse, and they lost 48-7. So I don't know if you knew this. So Iowa is 1-2 against Western Michigan all time, which obviously they haven't played a lot, but they have a losing record.
I know that.
They beat them in 2013. That was when PJ Fleck was there. Yep, that was a game that you were at where Kevontae Martin Manley had like 2 punt returns. We beat them like 63-7 6 or something like that.
Yeah.
We killed them.
Yeah.
I mean, like, can you imagine scoring 60 points like this day and age? Like, I feel like back in the day, it happened a lot. Like, it seemed like
Yeah.
we would get in the 50s, 60s sometimes, or maybe not 60s, but like 50s for sure against really shitty teams. Now it just feels like that, like,
Well, I
can
feel
never
like
happen.
we weren't talking about the offense as much as we are now. So
No.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
even like that year, we had Greg Davis as the offense coordinator, and we still put up 63 points. Granted, we got like 2 punt returns, which definitely obviously helps. But yeah, so we beat them then, but we lost to them back in 2007, I believe, and then like in 2000, we lost to them. So this game for sure it's a tune-up game. I mean, I keep saying that, but it is. We should have no problem taking care of business, and this is a game. And we'll talk about it here where like we got to get some things going. We got to focus on specific things. But let's first start with the offense for Western Michigan, because this is going to be kind of short because there's really not much to talk about with our defense. It's more obviously our offense. But I don't know if you knew this, but I went back and I actually watched a replay, not the entire game, but I watched a replay of the Syracuse Western Michigan game. And Western Michigan actually scored on their second play of the game, a 75-yard rushing touchdown. So they actually got up 7-0. And they, like I said, they got nothing on that first down, and then they ran it on second down and scored a 75-yard rushing touchdown by Jalen Buckley, who is their running back. They did not even lick the end zone or even get close to it the rest of the game. I actually jotted down the rest of the game after that one drive.
Yeah.
So this is how it went. 5 plays, 4 yards, 3 plays, 0 yards, 6 plays, 4 yards, 5 plays, 11 yards, 3 plays, 3 yards. You get the point. I'm not, but literally that's how bad it was for them the rest of the game. So
we're talking Syracuse defense there. So I can only hope.
Yeah. So
for what I think will happen Saturday, but go ahead.
Minus the 75-yard rushing touchdown, they only had 35 rushing yards, which is, and they had 17 rushes. So that equivalent like to about 2 yards a carry. So this is not a very good offense. And like I said, I was watching a replay. This quarterback for them, and hopefully I don't, this doesn't like knock on wood, but like this quarterback, did not look very good at all. He threw like a really bad interception. There's nothing where I was like, wow, like is
he a mobile guy?
No, he's not. He didn't run at all.
Pocket passer.
And I looked at his stats, and he didn't. No, in 2 games he has 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. So he's thrown an interception each game.
Okay.
So I think this is the game, especially with Jamari Harris back. This is a game where the Doughboys, where the secondary, I think gets multiple turnovers, multiple interceptions against this dude. They're going to try to get the run game going just because that's what they're going to try to do, and they're not going to have any success. If you can't do anything against Syracuse defense, even though they gave up a 75-yard touchdown, but minus that, which it was honestly more of just like the safety made a bad play. I mean, he was right there to tackle the dude, and he just made a bad play. I don't know how they're going to be able to do much on offense.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, Iowa's defense is, I'm going to knock on wood here before I say this, but built on not giving up explosives, right? Giving up explosive plays, and everything is going to be earned. I mean, every yard will be earned in that game for Western Michigan. So I agree with you. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball, which, I mean, kind of like what you saw against Utah State, the first game, you could see a quarterback throwing 40, 45 times, right? I mean, I could see it. The short, quick passes, kind of an extension of the run game, maybe a little bit for them. I agree with you. I don't see how they run the ball. And man, if it's like anything with that quarterback the first couple of games, Iowa's defense should be licking their chops trying to get that ball turned over. So I agree with you. I don't think there's much to say. This offense isn't very good. And like you said, besides that one big play, I mean, they got housed versus Syracuse. So I agree with you. Very, very much a tune-up game for Iowa. Defense should be ready to roll. So
I don't think I think they're gonna have the same game plan as Iowa State and Utah State, where they're
Game
going to
plan
do.
is going to stop the run, right?
Well, no,
I would think.
I'm talking Western Michigan's game plan
Oh,
is
I see what you're saying.
is going to be similar to
On
Iowa
offense.
State and Utah. Yeah, where short passing plays. Let's take our defensive line out of the game. Let's not make them a factor by getting sacks, because that was another thing too. Watching the replay of that game was their O-line did not look very good. Syracuse got a lot of pressure. Even just sending 4 guys, they would get pressure on the quarterback. So I think they're going to try their hardest to not let that happen.
Like we saw, you can dink and dunk for so long, and then all of a sudden you get a little greedy.
Yep.
You think you got it. You think you got an opening, and all of a sudden, big plays from the defense, from Iowa's defense, happen that way. So it'll be tough. Like I said, it'll be tough to come by, I think, for Western Michigan on Saturday.
I just think, like, if there's one bet, like, obviously, like, there's different bets that I feel good about in this game, but there's one, and that's this quarterback has at least 1 interception. Like, it's going to happen. Like, I can just see it now after watching a replay of that Syracuse game.
If it doesn't, he's going to have a whole lot of incompletions.
Yeah.
A lot of throwaways,
actually, and this is where that they do a lot of kind of short plays, because his stats are, he's throwing 68% so far this year, but his average is 5.8 yards. So
yeah,
kind of tells you, like, there's a lot of short routes and things like that. So, all right, let's switch to Western Michigan's defense and then talk about Iowa's offense, which obviously there's a little bit more to talk about there. Defensively, again, we are facing a team that runs a 3-3-5. This is a 3rd week in a row. You just don't see that very often. A lot of teams run like 4-3s or 3-4s, but another 3-3-5 defense. They haven't created any turnovers yet this year. I looked up, but and this is something just watching the game that I didn't even research this. I just plain watching the game. They blitz a shit ton. Like, almost every single snap, they are sending at least 1 or 2 guys, 3 guys, along with their defensive line. So, and I know yesterday, and this is where that reference where Cade's like, they come a lot, like, that's what he's referring to, is they blitz a shit ton. But with that, though, and if you watch the replay, it creates a lot of guys on islands on the outside when you're blitzing 2 or 3 guys.
Yeah.
And guys were open. And if they weren't open, there was only like 1 guy. And so that, in Syracuse, they threw the ball a lot downfield that game. And that's just something where I think, like, we really got to take advantage on. Number 1, to get practice doing it, because we haven't really connected very well, minus Seth Anderson first game or first play of the season. But I went and looked at, like, Syracuse top 3 receivers for that game last week. And the top guy, his average was 29.7 yards per catch. He had 3 receptions for 89 yards. The second guy had 5 receptions for 86 yards. And then the guy right under him was 5 receptions for 83 yards. So, I mean, they were throwing it down the field. They were pretty long routes. And for me, and I'll let you give your thoughts, but I think this is a game where, like, maybe minus Nico, because we know what we have with Nico, I want to see Seth Anderson, Caleb Brown, and Deontay Vines. I want to see all 3 of those guys get at least like 4 to 5-ish receptions. We know what we have with our tight ends. Let's not, like, this one game. Yes, if you want to throw the tight end ever so often, do it. But we know what we have in Eric Gall. We know what we have in Luke Lachey. And we're going to use them a whole hell of a lot when we get to the Big Ten play. But this game only, let's focus on just getting things right with our wide receivers, and let's get them the most targets going into Penn State game.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Colin. I mean, when you talk about a tune-up game, you also talk about a game where this is a game where you want to build confidence on offense, right? And I think that's kind of what you were talking about. Throwing to the wide receivers. I mean, to be honest, like, in the first 2 games, Caleb Brown doesn't have a catch yet, right?
No.
Seth Anderson only has a couple catches. Deontay has a couple catches. Nico only has a couple catches. I think this is a great opportunity. You just mentioned what they'd like to do on defense. They like to blitz, which means you have one-on-one, man coverage on the outside. I believe our wide receivers can win those matchups. If they can't, I'll be slightly concerned, right? I'm not saying we have to go for 80-yard touchdowns. I'm not saying that. But you're exactly right. Making it a priority to get them involved in this game will be, I think, a huge confidence boost to those guys going forward, moving on into Big Ten play. You kind of hit the nail on the head there. I think that, along with, we should be able to run the ball, right? If we can't run the ball against Western Michigan, we cannot run the ball this year. I'm going to say it right now. We won't be able to consistently run the ball at all again this year if we can't get it going. If we can't get Caleb Johnson specifically going in this game.
Well, exactly. And what Western Michigan is going to do exactly what the last
they are.
Teams are going to do. And
I'm not saying handoff up the middle is going to work, right? You have to be a little creative, Brian. This is where Brian comes in and not just, oh, it's 3rd and 1. Well, we're better than Western Michigan. Like, no, they know what's coming. Do something different, right? Change it up.
Yeah.
So that all plays a factor into it, of course.
I want to see, I know I mentioned this on the last episode, I want to see more run plays out of shotgun. Like, I just feel like we never do it. And when we do, it's like, it's not very often. It's always like the same, like, run play out of shotgun. Like, I want to see more unique, like, different types of run plays out of shotgun.
Get those guys out of the box. Get those defenders out of the box so you give Caleb a shot, right? I think that's big too.
Because I know Western Michigan, this is what they're going to do. So they're going to have their 3 defensive linemen. They're going to have their 3 linebackers. And then you have the 5 secondary. But they're going to have, like, 2 guys in the secondary that are going to play
consistently run.
Up. Yeah. So they're going to have, like, at least 8 guys in the box almost every time until we actually hopefully get to the point where they can't do that because we're airing it out or whatever.
Well, this is another game that the offensive line should be playing really well in. It
should, yeah. You have no excuse.
They got to do the work for Caleb, for Cade, all those guys. Like, you really got to start gelling here.
Syracuse can put up 48 points. I'm not saying we have to put up 48 points, but if Syracuse can do it, like, come on. Like, can we at least get in the 30s?
Right.
Like, seriously. But no, I mean, I don't know. I just, like, this is a game where, like, I really, like, if Nico, and even maybe not so much Nico, but if, like, Luke Lachey and Eric all get, like, 1 reception each, like, I'm happy with that. But if you told me right now that, like, the other wide receivers, especially, like, the 2 new guys, Caleb Brown and Seth Anderson, like, those guys get a lot of catches, like, that would be something I would just absolutely love.
Yeah.
So
getting
what
them involved, like I said, I think is going to be so important. Will we? No, I don't know, but I hope they focus on that a little bit for sure.
I'm going to ask you this question, but before that, one other thing I want to point out is the pass protection this week needs to be good with how much they blitz. Syracuse's pass protection was actually not bad considering, like I said, they were blitzing 2 or 3 guys,
right?
Along with the defensive line. But that needs to be really good to give Cade some time to throw it down the field or, whatever. Right. So, what is a realistic score for you? Like, if you like to make you feel good about, what is like a score? And I shouldn't rephrase it like what's a realistic score. What's a score that you would be walking out of Kinnick like, okay, I'm feeling good?
You want to give my prediction or what?
No, maybe not your prediction, because for me, my prediction's different, a little bit different than like what I would consider like where I'm like feeling good walking out of Kinnick. But maybe
offensively, I think getting into the 30s is going to be something that I'm going to walk out of the stadium going, okay, I know we can get there. This wasn't a very good team. We handled our business. We did what we were supposed to do, and we moved the ball down the field and we got into the end zone when getting down into the red zone, right? We didn't kick as many field goals. We actually capitalized and scored touchdowns. I think getting into that 30 range is something that I will be satisfied with walking out of Kinnick.
I agree. For me, it's not really so much about the points. I mean, yeah, it is, but for me, it's just like everything we just talked about. For me, it's more that, like, if we actually get the wide receivers more involved, we're connecting on deep shots, we're running the ball effectively, because if all that happens, that means the score should be decently
I was going to
high.
say,
so
I guess when I said 30, that means that we executed well on offense, right, to get there. So I
But
guess
hey,
we're kind
we
of
could
saying
have
the
like
same
2 or
thing, but
3 defensive touchdowns to get to 30.
well, that's true. I guess
Yeah.
what I said was from the offense, right? For the
Yeah.
offense to
For
get
the
to 30. Yeah, no,
So
I
okay,
agree.
let's say hypothetically, um, and these are no defensive touchdowns. Let's say we finish with just the same amount of points as Utah State, 24 points, but and this is a key, like there was a lot of like really good things though. Like we just didn't get in the end zone. Like there was just a few drives where we just didn't get in the end zone, but like we were getting the receivers involved. We were throwing it downfield. We were connecting on a lot. We were running the football good, but we only finished with like 24 points. Like how would you like think that? I know that's hard. That's a hard question, but
it's a hard question. If everything, I mean, if the offense at the end of the game, if we had 24 points, but we had 350 yards of offense, I'll be satisfied. I will. I'll be happy. I just think that there's no reason we can't get there in this game. And if we don't, it'll be because we shot ourselves in the foot, we turned it over, something. Because I don't see how we don't move up and down the field in this team.
yeah. So
I'm not saying there won't be a 3-and-out. I'm realistic. This is Iowa's offense, right? Like I'm not sitting here saying we're scoring on every possession. That's impossible.
I'll bet money on it.
Clear about that.
I guarantee you there will be a 3-and-out just because it's Iowa. No, I would say every quarter there will be a drive where we either have a 3-and-out or we punt like after like even if we get like one first down we like it's just Iowa, like that's just what Iowa is like. It's like it just happens even against really bad teams.
Right. I was going to say, just because it's Western Michigan, I'm not unrealistic in saying that we need to be getting points every drive. This is not going to happen, right? Yeah. So
also here's one other thing too. And this is where it's like, because I would love to get in the 40s, but here's the problem is if Iowa gets up and they're up like 24, 28 to like 0 or 3, we're going to be pulling the starters probably at that point. And there's no way we are like scoring touchdowns with our backups. Yeah. I mean, we saw the Utah State game when Cade went out, we had Beacon Hill in there. Like we got like one first down, if that, like, so it's like, that's another problem. So that's where it's like, if we only score in the 20s, but we were like actually looking pretty damn good and we just took out everybody like in the middle of the third quarter, then it's like, I guess it is what it is. But yeah, I don't know. What's your prediction for this game?
Well, I mean, it's hard because I mean, I thought we'd have more points against Utah State, right? And we didn't. Realistically, again, this might be kind of what I'm satisfied with, but what I think also we should be able to do, I'm going to go 31-7. I think we can get to 30 points on offense. And I do think there's a point in the game where, kind of like Utah State, we get up and we want to come out of this game unscathed, obviously healthy, ready for Penn State. And, we give up a touchdown somewhere late in the fourth quarter. I don't see how this team scores on our starters. I just don't see it. It would have to be we turn the ball over on offense and they get a short field, right? And they can capitalize. That's the only way I see this going down, them getting more than 7 points. I'll give them 7 points. Pitching a shutout is still very hard to do against any team. So, depending on how the game goes, field position, all of that. So, I'll go 31-7. I think this is a game where, like you said, Iowa must try to get some of those receivers going. And honestly, kind of make Cade look good, right? Look good in this game. Show out a little bit and like get the run game going, all that stuff. It'll be a kind of a wait and see. I've been waiting to see that throughout. Obviously, Iowa State, it's going to be hard, but Utah State, I'll blame that maybe first game of the season. We're 3 weeks in now. I think this is the game to do it. So
it's getting to the point where like
I'll be concerned if we don't. I'll just say this: if we don't look good against Western Michigan, I'm right back to kind of where I was last year and very concerned with this offense. I'm prepared to say that.
Yeah, it's to the point for me where it's like one of these weeks it needs to click. Like we can't just keep saying like trying to find
we can't keep saying, oh, well, the plays are there and there's a lot left to be out, that we missed on. And well, you got to execute, right?
Yeah. Like
at some point you got to execute.
David Eicholt had this article, and the headline read is what Cade said in the conference yesterday. He said there's a level of confidence that shows we're getting closer, and once this thing starts clicking, we're going to be very dangerous. And I love hearing that, but I just feel like we always hear those things, and then it just like never happens. And we always hear like, oh, we're very close, and it's like one of these weeks, it's like you got to do it. Like we can't just keep like, oh, okay, we're getting
You can
there,
talk the talk. When are you going to start walking the walk, right? Yeah.
So yeah,
what do you got?
Well, I have really close to you, 34-6. So
Okay.
I don't know how this
Relatively,
team. Yeah,
yeah.
I really think the only way this team scores a touchdown is if our second string is in, or if there's that one drive where I don't know, we just play like complete horse crap.
There is that first drive of the game.
There is.
You never know.
Yep.
So never know.
But I do think that like they'll at least get into field goal range a few times, right? Like we'll let them play everything in front of us, and they'll have that random drive here or there where they go down the field.
Don't break defense in.
But 34 points, I think, is very realistic. I think I had originally when we did our preseason predictions, which so far mine anyway, has been actually pretty really damn close. Like last week, I had 23-13 when we did it like a couple weeks ago, and the final score was 20-13. This game I had 40. I don't
freaking close too.
Yeah, I don't know what you had for your prediction last week. I'm talking about our prediction, like our preseason predictions.
I got you.
Yep. And then the Utah State game, I had 33-10. Final score was 24-14. So I mean, kind of close, but I mean, I expected maybe one more touchdown, and just think we were very close in that game to having more than 24. So this game I had 41-6. I'm going one down, 34-6. So it's like we should not have a problem getting in the 30s this game. We just shouldn't, especially if we get a couple defensive turnovers, maybe a special teams, big play. Like we should have no problem.
The only thing that worries me is we get up like 21-0, 24, and we just coast.
Yep.
And I that's what worries me still.
Yeah.
We run the ball, just try to get out with a win.
But
like you don't care about stats. I don't know.
This 25 points per game though, they need a high number. At
right
now
point, that again is still a real thing. So
yep.
I agree.
We're
not averaging it right now. So
no, they are at 22 points per game right now.
Yeah.
So they need a huge game this week. We need like a 50 burger for Brian
to make up for next week too. Yeah.
So if we got like a 50 burger on this game, then it would go all the way up to 31 points per game. So like, we need a big game. So maybe that will impel them to.
I was gonna say it ain't gonna be easy the following week, so you better get your points now, right?
Yeah, no kidding. Because we won't even get close to 25 points that game. So
no.
But hey, you never know. We did it back in. That's the one thing I will say about the Penn State game is now I was young, but I probably was like, there's no way we have any shot back in 2009 playing a 5-ranked Penn State. We weren't even ranked, and we went in and beat them. So there's always that chance. It's very, 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 very small, but
we have to be on all cylinders that game.
Like we have to play like the perfect.
It has to be a perfect game.
Yeah, and then we also have to hope like
Penn something State, crazy happens, right?
Penn State doesn't just play very well, which that can always happen too. You just have that off game, and you catch them on the right day. Essentially,
it was in Kinnick again. I have a lot more confidence. I just think, it'll be tough.
Although I still think that like I still feel like we play better on the road. I don't know why. It just maybe that's just the Iowa State game. But it's just, I don't know. It's weird. I just feel like we play better on the road sometimes. But all right, let's get into week 3 of college football. Man, this kind of glad I'm going to the Iowa game this week. It's really bad.
I was going to say it's bad.
Actually, first, before we get into this week, I do want to mention a couple games from last week. Number one, the first one was the Colorado game. Nebraska just once again completely shitting the bed and turning the ball over. I'm not saying if they didn't turn the ball over that they would have won that game. They probably still would have lost, but like it would have been a lot closer of a game. I mean, holy cow.
It's getting embarrassing under Matt Rule, right? I mean, you kind of all this expectation about them being maybe more disciplined than in years past under Scott Frost,
Yeah.
and with the turnovers, the penalties, and man, they are still very undisciplined.
Yeah,
and that game had like record viewership, by the way. That was like a 10 million viewership, which is crazy for a Colorado Nebraska game. I mean, that's how much hype there is around Deion Sanders prime and that Colorado program. That's what it is.
Yep. And College Game Day is going there this week, even though they're playing an 0-1 Colorado State team. I think they're 0-1.
And Big Noon Kickoff. Both of them are going there.
Wait, Big Noon Kickoff is going there again?
Yep.
So no, they're not going there. They're going to Penn State, Illinois.
I thought they were.
No, they're going to Penn State, Illinois.
Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that game's on that Colorado game's Saturday night. Penn State, Illinois 11 a.m. game. And the only reason I know that is because when I was watching like the Packers game, they kept like showing like Big Noon Kickoff next week, and it was Penn State, Illinois.
Okay. I got mixed up on that. But
anyway. At first, I was like, yeah. Before I thought of that, I was like, God, they're going to Colorado. That's be 3 weeks in a row that they had a Colorado game. It's like, we get it. Jeez. But no, Illinois game they are going to. But speaking of Illinois, holy cow, do they look bad? Their defense, man, like definitely has dropped off since all those guys left to the draft last year. Their defensive coordinator left, their linebackers coach left. Like, I mean, and I get it. Kansas is good, but they looked like crap that night.
By the way, I'm watching. So Big Noon Kickoff crew with special guest Rob Gronkowski in Boulder. Then tune in to watch Penn State and Illinois on Fox for Big Noon Saturday. The crew is still going to Boulder. I think Gus and Joel are going to the Penn State Illinois game. I saw that, dude. That's why I was like, okay, I'm double checking because I swear I saw something. But no,
my gosh,
they are on the Colorado bandwagon.
Wait, they'll be the crew. Boulder. The crew will be in the crew will be in Illinois, but like the game day ish of like the Big Noon Kickoff will be in Boulder.
Catch the Big Noon Kickoff crew with Rob Gronkowski in Boulder, and then tune in to watch Penn State versus Illinois on Fox.
Man,
so I think it's the other way around.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. The crew, which is Joe Klatt and Gus, is going to be at the Illinois game. But the game day ish is going to be damn.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Anyway, I don't know why we're getting into that, but no, there is just a lot of hype surrounding Colorado right now. Everyone's trying to jump on it early, which I mean, credit to them.
Yeah, their
over under was like 2 or 3 games, and they're probably going to hit that right now this week. Yep. So
and they're they're fun to watch. I mean,
they are.
I can see exciting. Why. The hype is there. I know living here in Lincoln, everyone here hates Colorado, and it's just because I think they're a little jelly of the way that how fast Prime kind of turned that program around compared to so far. Matt Rule really hasn't, right? Like they definitely look better. Like Nebraska's defense looks better, but everything else just kind of.
How do you start Jeff Sims, by the way, in week 3? I don't understand it. He's literally losing you football games at this point.
That tells me that the backups are terrible. Kind of like last year where we were like, how is Petrus still starting? Why is Padilla not going in there? Oh, wait, Padilla's third string at SMU. Oh, maybe that's why.
That's fair. But it says a lot. I don't know.
And then another Big Ten game, or Big Ten West team, I should say, Wisconsin losing at Washington State, which does not surprise me. I feel like every time a Big Ten team goes on the road out to the Pacific, especially the Pacific Northwest, it's just like where teams go to die, and it does not surprise me that they lost
in that game. Like I could see Iowa losing that game, right? I mean, that's like you said, it's tough. You're traveling so far, and quietly, Washington State's offense is unreal, dude. Cam Ward, their quarterback, is like throwing for like 400 yards a game right now.
Yeah. No, yeah, they're. I think they're very under. I think no one really talks about them because they're like one of the only teams that still hasn't, But this is random. Steve Dace and whatever the guy that they do like their podcast, they were talking about how like they predicted Washington State beating them last week, and they said it's because Wisconsin's new style is going to hurt them in this game because Washington State faces that style every week in the Pac-12,
That's
like
what
that
they do.
spread.
They are it. Yep.
And so them saying that, and then today I was listening to Chris Williams and John Miller, and Chris Williams was saying like how Iowa fans like, be careful what you wish for with things because like, yes, your style is boring and stuff, but that's what makes you kind of like a competitive advantage. He's like, that's why I don't understand why Wisconsin kind of left that of like that physical, pro style, because like a lot of teams, like they
you
don't
could argue they do the same thing as Iowa, but they did it a little bit better. And that's
yes.
why it was hard
Yep.
to beat them.
And yeah. And with like, even like Iowa, like team, like, and it's kind of make a good point. Like all these teams are like spread and then they play like Iowa and it's completely different. It's hard to kind of prepare because like you are going from like your style and you're running that every week, you're facing teams. And then it's like, oh wait, now we have to play this like boring, like just style. Grind it out. And that's, when you really think about it, that's kind of, I think why we've had success, like, all these years.
I don't think it's any
are consistent,
right.
So
100%.
I don't know.
That's a good point. It really is.
But yeah,
so Wisconsin losing that game. I mean, that's huge early loss for Wisconsin, right?
It is.
I mean, not necessarily for the Big Ten West, obviously, but just for the team that they thought they were going to be, and maybe they thought they were going to get to 10 wins or so. I think it'll be tough. I do.
I wish we were playing them earlier than when we do, because I do think as like the year goes on, like you kind of expected this, whole new system.
Right.
You kind of expected like things were going to be kind of shaky, but like, that's why I wish we played them like next week. I wish like we played Penn State later on, or even Penn State. I don't really wish we played later on, but like, I just wish we played Wisconsin earlier in the season where like they're still trying to figure some things out versus like we play them like in the middle of the year where maybe by then they have some things kind of clicking, but that game, regardless, it's on the road. It's going to be tough, but so going in this week, Penn State, Illinois, that's kind of like the big, I guess, Big Ten game of the week.
I think we thought that was going to be tougher for Penn State, but now for sure, I don't know. I don't see it being a very tough challenge for them, even though it's on the road. I still don't see it being.
I'm hoping Illinois at least gives like a fighting chance. It'll make me feel a little bit better versus like if Penn State goes in there and beats them like 40-10, it's like, okay, Jesus. Here we go.
I was gonna say, this might be the only time I'm like, come on, Illinois, right?
Yeah,
Illinois.
But I don't want Penn State to lose though.
No, I agree. You don't want to get a pissed off Penn State, right? That's the worst. Getting them feeling good isn't necessarily a bad thing, right?
Yeah,
because then they kind of think they're, unbeatable. So, but yeah, I agree. Some sort of fight and competitiveness out of Illinois obviously would be big for Iowa come 2 weeks. So,
man, like that's like, and then like, like Washington at Michigan State, which with everything that happened at Michigan State, kind of wonder what.
Obviously fired.
Yeah. Well, he's not fired yet, I don't think.
Oh, okay. I thought he was, but
so like that report came out, but apparently like he's like he's gonna get fired. I think like, but like they have to go through like the whole process or something. I forgot what the whole thing was. Is he on
like administrative leave right now?
Yeah, I think so.
So he's not coaching.
No, and we obviously welcome them in 3 weeks. So that program's kind of in shambles right now, and going into the year,
Washington is amazing. So
they're really good.
Michigan State.
Yeah, Michigan State's. Yeah, The only way I'm giving them even a chance is like it's at Michigan State. If it was at Washington, like it's like have fun there. But really that's like it. Like, do you have Tennessee, Florida, which like
Minnesota at North Carolina is kind of a weird game, right?
Yeah, that game, like if I was around, I would watch that game. I mean, that might be kind of good, but if Florida was better, that would have been a way bigger game, Tennessee at Florida. Yeah. But like when like, I get it with the whole like with Prime and stuff, but when that they're going like College Game Day is going to Colorado State at Colorado, that's when like the weekend or this week's slate is horrible.
I was gonna say that is just they want to go there so they have something to talk about, right? Yeah, especially with the team that they're hosting or whatever. So 100%. This week's not a very good slate of games. I'm glad it's a 2:30 game, right? The Iowa Western Michigan game. That way I'm not mad about really missing any of the games on that day, and I can just cheer for my Hawks. So
next weekend, when we'll be in Phoenix, that weekend slate is incredible. So on Friday, you have USC or UCLA, Utah. You have Oregon State, Washington State.
Which, by the way, the Pac-12 is undefeated. So going into this week,
yeah,
there's some games that are going to be epic, especially from the Pac-12.
Yep. So you have that game. You have Oregon State, Washington State, like you mentioned, both undefeated.
Yep.
Oklahoma, Cincinnati. Like that's just on Friday night. Then on Saturday, you have Florida State, Clemson. You have Ole Miss, Alabama. You have Colorado, Oregon.
That'll be a hell of a game.
You have Ohio State, Notre Dame.
Is what I think they could be. That would be an epic game.
You have Iowa, Penn State, Ohio State, Notre Dame. Like, holy shit. Wow. There are some good games on next week. Like, I don't like like, it's so hard to even pick like which game's the biggest because there's some really big games.
Yeah. No, that's incredible.
Yeah. So we just got to get through this week, this weekend slate. And like I said, thank God we'll be at the game because we won't really miss much.
I was gonna say.
So
we'll be able to enjoy it a little bit better with the weather and just being a 2:30 kickoff. Like you said, I'm hoping to see some of the things we talked about, right? The offense getting going and the defense looking sharp as ever. So that's
for sure.
Kind of what I'm hoping.
So, well, Tyler, that will do it for this episode. We'll be back. Hopefully like on Sunday, like feeling like really good, right? Going to the Penn State game. Hopefully we're
get us feeling good and give us some optimism, right? Going into that game. That's what I'm
for sure.
For.
So, and then, so we do an episode on Sunday and then potentially we might be doing one down in Phoenix, but we still have to kind of work some things out. We don't know yet for sure, but if we do, we'll have one out. If we don't, I guess we'll just not have one going in the Penn State game. So
could always do one Tuesday night, but come out
tough though, because we'll be we'll be gone that night too. That's so it's like if we're going to do it then, it's like then we might as well just do it down in Phoenix. So I don't know. We'll wait and see on that. But all right, guys. Well, thank you guys for listening as always. Have a good night, Tyler, and have a good rest of your week. Go Hawks.